This is Translators Aloud, and this is from the final volume of My Struggle by Karl Ove Knausgaard. I sat down again outside. The cigarette was still burning. I put it between my lips and sucked so hard it made the filter hot. I looked up at the sky, then at Thomas as he came out with a box of raspberries in his hand. We used to hear nightingales here, he said, sitting down at the other side of the table. It's not that many years ago either. What happened? I asked. He shrugged. They just vanished. Driving home an hour later, the sun hanging low over Denmark on the other side of the strait, I thought about those vanished nightingales. It was the perfect beginning for the novel I was going to write when My Struggle was finished. An elderly man, full of years, potters about in his garden on the Swedish island of Gotland, reads in the shade, goes for long walks in the woods or along the endless beaches, retires early to bed in the evenings. It's summer. The sun beats down in the day. The vegetation's dry and scorched, and he's all alone with not a living soul for company. He thinks about a conversation he had more than 30 years before, sitting in the sun at a cottage on the Öresund coast, during which his friend Thomas, long since dead like so many of his friends are dead, told him the nightingales had vanished. It was the first he'd heard of it. Not long after, he saw a TV documentary about bees vanishing in the USA. From one day to the next, they were gone. No one knew where, whether they'd found some new place to go or simply died out. One Sunday, out with his family in the great beech woods outside the town where he lived at the time, they'd seen hundreds of dead bats scattered everywhere on the ground. The newspapers carried reports of similar occurrences, flocks of birds falling from the skies, huge shoals of fish floating dead in the sea. Something was happening in the world and no one knew what. The fish, could it have been a volcanic eruption under the sea, gases rising and killing them off? Or was it caused by man? The birds, was that some sickness running rampant among them? But then why would they fall down at the same time? Was it some kind of stress? The wild salmon disappeared. Some suggested farmed salmon were to blame. Certain species of butterfly vanished. Had there been a change in the environment so rapid that they'd been unable to adapt? And then in the space of a couple of summers, the great bird colonies stopped coming to their nesting grounds along the coast to the north. This time, no one could even hazard a guess as to the reason why. Every night before he goes to bed, he writes a few pages in a notebook, mostly for his own sake. His days out there on the island being so alike that without his notes, everything would merge into one. He notes down the things he does, the way he feels, what he sees, now and then events from his past life, which in that way emerges unsystematically. That was the idea I had, and I elaborated on it in my mind as I headed south.